Hey guys, welcome back to Opimation, and in today's video we're going to go over an old shot. I was going through some really old animations I've done about 11, 12 years ago when I used to be at Animation Mentor as a student, and I thought I'd just show you how I broke down my shots and how the mindset was when I go through a shot. So if we look at this shot here, so this is the shot we're going to be breaking down. So in this video we'll go through the blocking stages of it. So if we look at this and play this, you've probably seen this before on the channel, on my show reel, but it's basically a weight exercise. And what I'll do is I'll break down all the ideas of how I got to this point of making the animation. So that's the animation we'll be analyzing. So if I just move that out of the way, first thing we'll do is, so the first thing you do when you're animating is obviously you want to find reference, or everything's about, you know, an artist is only as good as their reference, right? So what we'll do is, so I found some really old footage of me, which I will show, and you will not laugh, but this is about, well, you're talking like 12 years ago. So I'll show you in a bit. Let me just find it. I'll just pause this and I'll find it, and then we'll come back to it. All right, so here's the footage, and let's go and analyze it now and break it down. So this was back in my parents' back down in London in our home. So basically this is like a lot of the pulling exercises I would do. So this was more to do with like the end, when I'm pulling back on the block and getting all tired and falling down. So I was finding out different poses that would work, like from here, like if you notice I'm putting the arm here. In the animation I've tried to put the arm underneath to make it different. So I was trying different things out. So if I play this, actually I'll scrub through it's better. So the hair, like what I'm looking at is just energy and poses, strong poses, right? So I've always thought like this was a strong pose when I start to analyze the actual footage. Like if I just move this here, see, like I would thought something like this, I was thinking like a pose like this is strong, right? So it comes down like that, and then you've got the nice straight, everything's like effort going this way, the energy is going this way to push that up. So I was thinking in terms of that, to make the object heavier, and also coming down and trying again. So I was trying out all kinds of different stuff there. And then in the back garden, this was when the character was coming from left to right. So here in the garden, I'm jumping up and I'm grabbing. As you can see, my arm is back there. Then I get the other arm and I'm pulling. So I'm trying out different poses, having the arm come over like that and then down, jumping and then holding and then moving. So I'm trying all these different types. So basically I'm trying to find out as many different variations as I can, and then I'll just scrub through this more and see if, yeah. So then I come here, you can see like I've moved the bench, and then I come here, and this is the second part of it where I'm jumping over and I'm coming down and I'm pulling and pushing, pulling and pushing. And then I have some other footage which I'll show you here. So this is other footage of me pushing, trying different things. This is after I've jumped over. So I'm trying, and then of course there's this bit, you'll see it in that final animation, but there's this bit here I'm pulling, and then I'm also pulling like that. I'm trying all types of different, and I'm breathing, which is in the animation. So a lot of this stuff comes in, some of it doesn't. Same here, pushing, pulling. So just trying all different kinds of stuff, right? Just pushing and pulling. And then what I would do, I would sit down and I would analyze, okay, as you can see, I'm not using all of it, but in this reference here, I thought, all right, this is the end part. So I broke the reference down into the start, the middle, and the end. So I thought at the start, okay, it's going to run up. So I started at the end. So this is the end bit where I'm thinking, okay, I want the end to be like this, the effort. But then this is the start. So I've got areas, this is the start bit that I would like coming in, and then obviously then at the end there's the bit where you jump over. Then I wanted to get that bit. What I was looking at here is studying the hips to see, all right, the character comes here, I want it to follow. When I'm animating, I'm looking at it and I said I want the hips to follow a nice arc coming down. And then that's what I tried to look at. When I'm looking at a reference, I'm looking at the whole body. The poses I'm looking at, but obviously when it comes to reference, you don't copy exactly the poses because you want to exaggerate. You know, as an animator, you want to go beyond, you want to push those poses. So these poses have all been pushed, and you'll see that in the blocking. But here I'm just analyzing which clips I want to use. Okay, I'll use this for the start, I'll use that for the middle, and that for the end. So I've got a good sense of the weight and where the weight is on the leg, and to make it believable, because selling weight is everything as well. So I was trying to work that out. And then obviously this was the end bit. So then I got all my reference like this. And then what I did is I broke it down like I was breaking out the poses. And then here I started breaking down. If I turn this to, let me just turn this to not default, that's it, that one. So this is the rig from AM Stewie. So let's play this. So this is my first pass I did when I blocked everything in. So if we play it, and you'll see as we go through, a lot of it has changed. Like there's pulling there. I didn't have that, I changed that, but you'll see that happening. So I've blocked in all the main poses is what I've done here. So it's the very first pass. I'm just making sure all the key poses are there. And the other thing I'm looking at is, even though while I'm blocking, I'm looking at where the hips are, where the arcs are. I'm looking for strong poses, because this is a chance where you want to sculpt your poses. Now, looking back now, it's been about 12 years that I did this shot, 12, 11 years. Obviously there's poses that I look at, I think I could have pushed, could have done the arcs a bit more better. But if I go through like each pose, this is basically the poses. So for example, from here to here, the hips obviously is linear. So then later on I will add breakdowns, but as I'm going through, I'm just generally looking at the hips coming up here, generally looking at the arc coming down and going back, the arc coming down and up, then pulling, which obviously this section here all gets changed because there's a bit of a stretch there and it's quite obvious. Didn't really look that right. And then another strong pose, which I tend to start pushing later on. But it's very early stages of blocking. So I'm just getting the blocking in. I'm trying to get the timing right. And I'm just working out the poses, the arcs, different types of poses I'm looking at to see if they work or not. So that's basically the first pass that I would do. And then I would move on to breaking down the animation even more, right to the point where I've got all the poses on 2s. Literally, you know, like you keep breaking down, keep refining the arcs, and then eventually you might think, holy shit, there's a lot of keys on the timeline. But you've done it, you refined it so much that you've tracked the arcs and in the hips and in the arms and legs, wherever, in the blocking phase. The more you can refine in the blocking phase, the easier it will be when you go to spline. So in this stage, I've done quite a bit of refining. Initially, I blocked in like the main poses, like here. I got in this pose, this one. I was getting all the main poses in like that and like that and like that and like this and like this and then that. Then I was going in between and adding all the breakdowns. But that was the first pass of blocking which I did. And now what I'll do, I'll open another scene up, which is a bit more refined blocking, and then we'll go through that. Okay, so this is another file. So if we look at this file, let's go back to the end here. So it's coming in and I refined it a bit more. So I'm getting a bit more of the animation coming through. And there's a little bit here which I've changed now. Got the arm going over. We get rid of the arm bit where he's going like that as well. We just have him breathing. But this is like more or less the final part of the blocking stage that I felt, okay, it feels all right, this feels good. This is more or less what I want. And then from there, we start moving on to the splining area. So if I get the splining out. So here, all I'm looking at is, if you look, actually, let's go through this. So if you go, let's go to the curves. If you select the hips, and let's go to visualize, create edible motion trail, yeah. And then it should show, okay, that doesn't work, which I don't know why, but we can try it in the spline, that's no problem. Okay, so anyway, so eventually I just started splining and putting in more breakdowns and making it, refining the blocking stage a lot more, so that when I move on to spline, it's easier to get through cleaning up, and I don't have to move the timing too much. So if we move over to the next one, I'll show you that, the splining. So we're moving on to the splining now. So this, in this file, if we play this, you can see it's become a lot more smoother. There's a bit of floatiness in the feet and in the hands, if you see here. And there you can see the foot as well. But generally I splined it out, and I worked out I just smoothed out all the areas that needed to be smoothed out in the graph editor, in terms of, so for example, if I open up the graph editor here, we go to window, graph editor, you can see the curves here, and I just worked through them, and I was just making all these overshoots, making sure everything was, oops, what happened there? Making everything was like overshooted, and I could add keys there if I want, but you know, if I wanted stuff like to go over a little bit, hold some poses here and there. So I was refining all of the curves, and I wasn't too worried about, like, for example, if you look here, this foot, it's sliding and everything, right? I mean, I can, if we go to here, let me see if I can, yeah, so I wasn't too worried about all that kind of stuff sliding. There's easy ways to, you just flatten the curves out to get rid of that slide. You just select the curves and just flatten. But I was more interested in just the overall, to see how the animation is flowing. And I was looking at stuff like the hips and the arcs. Like, I thought that was nice, the way the character comes from down from here, back, and then winds up, pulls it through. Got a nice overshoot like that. So he hits the pose here, and then he goes a few extra miles. That's the overshoot of the pose. And here, what I literally did, I just overshot the hips. That's all I did there. So if we look here, and we look at the axis on here, it is in the Z, right? So if we go to Z here, you can see here as well, as I hit, you can see here it's going up and then holding, then coming down. So little overshoots like that just create a little bit. It can be very subtle as well. Just creates that extra. You can go a bit more extra, right? When there's a bit more energy in the animation. And then that was more or less the splining over. And then from here, all you're doing is you're really trying to polish and keep polishing, which means you're tracking your arcs, you're tracking your hips. You can go as detailed as you want. I mean, when I did this about 12 years ago, they used to have a acetate paper, right? And I used to stick it on the screen, and I used to get not a permanent marker, whiteboard marker. I used to dot all of those curves and everything. I see how it's moving, see which way the curves are going. But now there's so many tools, motion tracking and stuff that you can use, visualize motion, like this one here. edible motion trail. So you've got so many tools at your disposal now to just refine those arcs, and really powerful tools that you have now, so you don't have to worry about that. But then from here, I'll just keep on polishing and polishing. I'll show you another video where I started polishing the stuff. Just pause it here and I'll show you. So now if we look at the polishing, there's still a bit of little detail I was missing out on, but I knew it was there. I was going to sort it out later. But now I was just refining all the actual curves of the hips. And I was looking at the hands a bit. The hand looks a bit odd there because it's black. But I can't get that to change, I don't know why, but there. So I was adding details like over here, like the hand, the fingers. I was adding little poses there. And also here where he grabs, I was adding little arcs, like nice little arcs going up, little details like that, wrapping over, offsetting. And then as I'm coming over, I'm trying to detail these little fingers here. So I'm really, when it comes to polishing parts, these are little things I try and see that I can push the animation a bit more. So rotating around. And then as he comes over, like you can see, even see here, it needs a bit more polishing. And I come up and then down. So I'm just trying to work on all the arcs of the hand, which are looking now, I can really refine a bit more. But you know, I was learning animation back then. And then grabbing, so like having one hand on there and then having the other hand come on just to break up the timing, to make the movements more organic and realistic. And then again, coming down here, I'm looking at the arcs of the hips. So I'm looking at the path. I'm always conscious of, all right, how's the path? How do I want the path of my hips to be like that when it jumps down, when he jumps down? So there, from there to all the way down like that. Comes down, comes back, overshoot, nice arc going down. So I'm always refining and thinking of these nice, the energy, which way is it going, you know, like that way, the force to make it believable. And then the arc to come up. So from here, the arc to come up and then come back down and settle. So I'm always looking at these little details in the polishing stage. Again, arcs there, even here, when he pushes, drops, and then up again. So he pushes up. So you're creating these nice little pushes and the arc goes up, woo, drops. And then, you know, you're creating those nice little smooth arcs, because then that affects the whole body, right? Unless you're animating a robot, which is jittery. So that stage, at this stage, even here you can see, like, if you look at the hands here, they kind of like still push it up, right? But later on, what I've done is I make the hand a bit firm, so it holds this pose a bit more. And that's more or less the polishing stage. So in the polishing stage, it's not about polishing what's in the graph editor, it's about polishing what's on the screen. You know, tracking the arcs, looking at the different overshoots and holds and little details like blinks, eye raises, breathing, little hand, toe movements, you know, all these little things that he comes down here and there's a little toe movement here. So those little things is what I would define as polishing. You know, you're trying to, even a little squash and stretch, a little scaling here and there to just add a bit more volume and texture to your animation. That kind of stuff all makes, it will bring your animation up a notch a bit more. So you just want to keep on refining, looking at the shots, writing down notes, keep going back, and that's basically how it is. And obviously the feedback we got as well from my mentors. But there's no real secret. It's just breaking down all these poses, and you're trying to get it, trying to take the notes, the feedback, refine, and it's just an ongoing process. And at one stage you have to say, you know, okay, that's enough. I've done what I can. I have to kind of divorce the shot and go to like the next one. So yeah, so overall, that's the process. I'll show you another file, which I think is the polished version. Just load that up. So this is the polishing one, where I've more or less added a bit more little details, and I've got it to where I kind of like it, where I'm kind of satisfied with it, to be honest. And you can see the little changes. So for example, here I come here, and if you look at this, the hand here, this bit, I add a little bit of a get a grip kind of, and then the other one too, coming back, I kind of added, like if I look back now, I think this hand here zips back, this zips back way too much. So if we play it, I just think that it could be a bit more organic, it could be a bit more, it just kind of zips back, could be like, oh, like that, you know? So little things like that. And he's breathing, as you can see the body here. If you look at the body here, there's a scale control on the body here, the black body there, black shaded, and you can see it's moving while he's, I could have added more in the shoulder, looking at it now, because, you know, obviously you develop an eye. And obviously here, I think the wrist was all right there, yeah. That's fine. I think that works well. I think this is good when it comes up. Like if you look at the hand here, squash and then comes down. So he's gripping up and then comes down. I think that's a nice detail. And obviously here, raising up and then down. And then you can also see that I've added in the toes. Comes down here, if you look at the little toe movements there, so he comes down also, and then here as well, there's a bit of a toe up and then down. And then these little shifts you can get away with in cartoon animation, like from here to here in the feet, different poses, you know. Sometimes you don't even need an in between, just quick. And then here to the stretch, you know, the stretching on the arm. I guess you kind of, if you do it enough, you can kind of get away with it. And then the end. And also I added a lot of hair. Another thing I added was the eyes. So you can see one eye is shut there. And here his eyes are closed, and then he goes back. A little bit of a stretch there in the eyes. And as he comes down, I stretch the eyes as well. Just creates that thing that wouldn't be there otherwise, you know. And then one eye shut to create that kind of effort. Again, both eyes shut, and then he's going no, no, the little blink. So that is the overall process of how I went about this shot, from blocking to splining to polishing and refining, you know, right to the end. So what I would say about this shot is I really had fun with it. I really enjoyed it. I had a great mentor, absolutely brilliant, Steve Cady. Still keep in touch with him now. Brilliant, absolutely. You know, in your animation career, there will be someone you either work with or someone who's teaching you that will give you that aha moment, right? That something's clicked. Everyone will get it. It's just a matter of time. And I was animating for about 2-3 years before I did an animation mentor, and Steve Cady was one of the mentors who just made something click in my mind. And all he said to me, this was during a body mechanics class, and all he said to me was, you see this hips, just make it go like a ball, go like a ball. That's all he needed to say for me to get it. You know, it took me a while to understand that most of animation is about the bouncing ball. You know, the bouncing ball is so overlooked, you know, and I stress it a lot in when I teach. But it's so important to grasp that understanding of the bouncing ball. Is so fundamental to everything, especially when it comes to the hips. And I'll talk more about that in another video, and how you look at the hips as the bouncing ball. I'll do little small breakdown examples for that. But he completely changed the way I thought about animation and approached it. So this shot here really helped me in my timing as well. My understanding of timing grew a lot in that shot. And obviously you're working on your own stuff, so it's enjoyable as well. So I have very good memories about this shot. It really brings back a lot of good fun memories. And all I would say to take from this is, when you're polishing your work, don't just think of polishing as just a graph editor. I'm going to polish the curves and this and that. It doesn't matter what the curves look like. What matters is what's on the screen. And if you can track all the arcs, make sure everything's running clean and smooth, depending on the animation, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Like we said, if it was robotic, it would be linear, right? But most things, human, cartoony, is very organic. Things run in arcs, right? So track that, refine it. Look at the silhouette of your model. See how it is. Is it clear? Can you push the poses more? Push them. Push it more. If it's too much, you can always tone it down. Always go more than less. You know, really exaggerate. One of the principles of animation is exaggerating. So try and really push it as much as you can. Another thing about polishing is like little things like eyebrow movements, blinks. I know that covers facial animation, but you could still go in and polish a lot of that stuff. Hands, little hand fingertips movements, you know, little detail. If you give attention to detail, then the excellence will follow. You know that. So really, like, look at little toe movements, little weight shift in shuffles in the feet. All these kinds of things will add more believability to your animation. So yeah, so I just wanted to break down a shot that I did, and I hope that it kind of clears my workflow so that you can kind of adapt that to yours, or take what you like and add it in yours, because, you know, no two animators work the same. But generally it's reference, get your reference, then what you do with the references, you don't copy it completely, but you look at the best parts, you take them, and then you push those poses in your blocking. Your blocking is where that's where the animator comes in. That's where you have to think about your posing and your breakdowns and your silhouettes and everything. So the reference is there as a guide to tell you, okay, this is how it feels, this is the weight of the character on this pose, so you know to align the hips over the leg or whatever leg the character is standing on. So reference is very good for that. And you get a general idea of a pose, but then you push that pose in your animation. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something useful in this video. Like always, if you did, please subscribe, like, share, and keep animating, keep practicing. Don't stop, and have fun animating it. And I'll see you in the next video.